So, in terms of your unit that we're going to look at,
Okay.
what were your primary goals for your students? And what sort of assessment did you decide you were going to use at the end, a sort of summative assessment, to determine whether students were meeting the goals you set for them?
Okay, well, I really wanted the students to be able to think critically. One of the things I found is that they weren't used to thinking critically at all. They always had wanted to know, what's the right answer? What's the right answer? And I'm like, I don't care what the right answer is. I'm interested in the process. So I wanted them to be able to read any type of information, to cite evidence for their answer, to be able to go to the text as a basis for why they chose something. I wanted them to be able to distinguish fact from opinion. I wanted them to be able to express an idea of theirs in a format that was academic because they weren't used to it. So what I knew I would give them...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Give me an example of what you mean by a form that's academic.
Well, my students are... I found that they are able to express themselves, but not in the language of the standard. So I wanted to get them used to looking at the standard, looking at the task, looking at the text, and being able to give information that mirrors that type of language, because that's not the way that they speak on their personal time. So I wanted to teach them how to really do that and be able to express themselves that way. And so I knew I was going to give them an essay and an argument to do about art imitating life. And so everything that we did leading up to that moment was really giving them practice on how to create an argument. They just didn't know it yet.
Right, okay. So we talked earlier about how it's a challenge sometimes to engage students in general.
Right.
Your students may be more so than others.
Yeah.
So what are some techniques you use to grab the students to do the type of work you want them to do?
Well, yeah, I said earlier about sometimes I have to take straw and make bricks to build houses, and that's because my students come in various levels. I have to make sure that I'm not leaving a group. I have to make sure that I'm not leaving anyone behind, or that I'm not having someone stagnant waiting until they can join in. So when you have students who are not very interested in school, they're interested in something. And normally something that grabs several groups of students is music. So when a student first enters my class, I give them a questionnaire. I ask them certain things. Can you cook? Can you like football? What position? And I always ask them what's their favorite type of music. And we get into that because I love music. And I love all genres. And one of the tasks that I give them at the very beginning of the year is to bring in their favorite song. And one, can they tell me what it's about, really? And we find a lot of times they don't know. But and we talk about it, and I bring in my favorite song. And they always expect my favorite song to be Beyonce or something like that. And it's my favorite song on the planet is Renegade by Jay-Z and Eminem.
And how do you use this song to teach them about looking at text and analyzing it?
Well, because both of the artists are very, they use a lot of imagery. They paint a lot of pictures, and you have to figure out exactly what they're saying. I will take excerpts of the song, not the whole song.
Why not?
Because it's not really, it's not, all of the song isn't appropriate for school.
Right. So it's important that people know that this song is not appropriate for all students. And you use very specific excerpts.
Yes.
That don't have any profanity,
right?
But other parts of the song do,
right?
So you don't present those parts.
I don't present those parts.
Okay.
I will give them pieces of it that that have images that they can relate to, and that really would require them to do some analysis to discover what they're talking about. But I don't ever give them the whole.
So show us what that might look like in your class.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about life and art, and normally I'm using this to go into this unit that we're going to discuss. And they'll bring their favorite songs, and we'll try to break them down, and they realize that maybe I don't know what the song is talking about. What they really like is the music behind it. They're not really focusing on the lyrics, or that they like songs that don't require them to think that much. So I will give them a song, like this is Renegade.
And we'll post just these lyrics on the Prezi, not the whole thing.
Not the whole thing.
Go on.
And at the beginning of this first part of the second verse, Jay-Z is rapping, and he says, "I had to hustle, my back to the wall, ashy knuckles." Like, that's all he says, and it creates this image. And so I asked them, what would be reason someone would have to hustle? Back to the wall. Does he really mean his back is on the wall, or could it mean something else? And the student normally says, maybe he felt like he didn't have any other options. Well, why would that happen? And then we have a conversation where we're actually analyzing human condition and what someone would be driven to do if they felt like they were out of options, which they don't know is going to lead into Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay.
So I would use that, and then normally I rap it for them because they don't think I can rap, but and they get to hear alliteration, they get to see imagery.
Can you rap a little bit for us?
I had to hustle, my back to the wall, ashy knuckles, pockets filled with a lot of lint, not a cent, got a vent. That's all you get.
Okay.
That's all you get.
So, can you give us another example of what that might look like in terms of just unpacking some imagery?
Yeah, well, they have this image of someone standing with their back to the wall, and I said, well, why would it, why does he say ashy knuckles? What does that mean? It's like, well, maybe his knuckles are rubbing up against the wall, and it's cold outside. And I say, well, what could that mean if it was a symbol of something? It's like, well, it's cold and your back up against the wall, you could feel like you're at your wit's end. It's the last possible place that you would want to be, that you're in a state of despair. They may not say despair, but they're in a state of despair.
So you're asking, why does he say that? Why does he say that? What does he mean by
right.
that? And what multiple meanings might there be?
Right. And I get them in the process of not worrying so much about the what, which is what they're used to, what is the right answer, but the why.
Okay, and that's going to drive how they read the rest of the text.
Exactly.
Excellent. So now let's look a little bit more into some detail of what you're doing in terms of more narrative texts.
Okay.